Welcome back again. This is Jeffrey with 14 Years Later, and today we are going to talk truth in the Old Testament and what the implications are for Book of Genesis. But here I have my copy of the Holy Bible, the Holman Christian Standard Bible. So different, I believe, if I understand correctly, than the King James Version. Many of the words are different. The message is, as I understand, the same, actually. So, I should give some background. I am not a West African descended individual. None of my ancestors, all won't, have been West African. So if you understand, I am not like an NBA basketball player at the moment. This should be very about truth. We talk about Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life. This should be the truth. So, what I have as a point to what I will have just said was I am Middle Eastern. This is my background. I've spoken about my genome and my ancestors somewhat in different videos, which you can check out. But essentially, I am going this instance from right to left. I am Iranian, Iraqi, Syrian, and Ashkenazi Jew. So, in terms of my ancestors. And when you are on the right side of what I said, if you're looking at the map, I have a higher number of ancestors. And as you go leftward, I have fewer. All of my ancestors won't have been Arabians of the Arabian Peninsula. I am on my father's side, essentially 4 different national groups. Now we have nations in a modern sense. I am of 4 different national groups of Semites. So I am a Semite on my, Semite meaning descendant of Shem. If we look at Book of Genesis, son of Noah, Shem. I am 4 different Semite nations at the moment. So we're talking Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Israel, essentially. And I am in recent history is what I mean, my father's father's father, so my great-grandfather was a cleric in Shia Islam. I am an individual who has a Bachelor of Arts in History and a minor of Science and a minor in Political Science from UCLA. And I've been to 3 different law schools in the United States where I am born and from. And I've never finished a semester, but I've been admitted to and I've attended Harvard Law School, Columbia Law School in the city of New York, and USC Gould School of Law in Los Angeles. So Harvard is in Cambridge in Massachusetts in the Boston area. And I really didn't finish law school for several reasons. I had some health trouble, but also an issue that went into my mind earlier than I went to law school was I had understood after I began an understanding of humans aren't allowed to execute humans because this is a form of killing, which I learned afterward is exactly in the 10 Commandments. And I'm not saying I didn't understand there were 10 Commandments or to kill was in the 10 Commandments. I just memorized the 10 Commandments afterward, many years afterward, possibly half a decade after I went to Harvard Law School. I have a bad memory, so I've forgotten again, but I generally remember the 10 Commandments. But at a certain point, I had memorized exactly the 10 Commandments. But earlier than attending Harvard, so about half a decade earlier, I had already understood, compared to when I was younger, when I was like a child, or under age 18, when I was a minor, I did not understand humans are not allowed to execute humans. No capital punishment, no death penalty, no executions. So yes, I am a religious extremist and a religious fanatic, and this includes thou shalt not kill. This includes thou shalt not commit adultery, which is going to come up in the video somewhat after now. But so I'm going to talk Old Testament, and we're going to talk about sort of man compared to women, because I come from Shia Islam, so we have the blessing of the Quran, which we are not allowed to worship any except God. So the Quran is not worshipped, no angel is worshipped, Muhammad may not be worshipped, Ali may not be worshipped, Adam may not be worshipped, Abraham may not be worshipped, Jesus Christ may not be worshipped. Okay, but we do give respect, and we do believe a blessing is what the Quran is, and Jesus was as a human, or is in the past as a human, and Muhammad was also a blessing also. And when we talk about Muhammad, for instance, we believe him to be a prophet and messenger. But so the New Testament, some of the New Testament in the Holy Bible, the beginning, the book of, I'm like in incorrect order, but book of Luke, book of John, book of Mark, and book of Matthew. I possibly got the second two in incorrect order in terms of how they were in history. I'm just guessing. But are the Gospels, or not the Gospels, there is a single Gospel, apologies, but the Gospel according to those individuals in Englishman language, those are the names used. So yes, I've been to Luzon in the Philippines. I enjoy to have lunch. I really enjoy lunch, and I enjoy book of Luke in the Holy Bible. Though what I'm describing is the New Testament. Today I want to talk about the Old Testament, which humans believe is only for the Jews. I guess there are individuals who believe is only for the Jews. No. To be a Christian, you must believe in the Old Testament. To be in the Jews, this is relative to Judaism. Okay, so there's a difference because of who is who, the Jews being God's chosen people. And may they be victorious in especially and exactly, if possible, in accepting the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. I hope they may be 100% human and 100% victorious and understood as such. So including Jesus Christ in the past, 100% human, 0% divine. Though he did for Shem Genome and for us and who we are and who I am, he did put a hit on the Romans big time in going anti the execution and death penalty and capital punishment system which the Romans had or have in the past, will have been understood as having had in the past, which was crucifixion. So Jesus Christ put a hit on the Romans in what we would in America, in the USA, describe as the judiciary. So he was an abolitionist, as I understand. And when he began his ministry, if I understand correctly, I believe according to, in book of Luke, he references to prophet Isaiah. Sorry, I'm so paranoid. He references to prophet Isaiah or book of Isaiah. I have to make sure. Apologies, I don't mean to be taking this so lightly. But so the Shia Muslims, as well as what the Sunnis should, are to accept the gospel. Okay? And in Islam, the gospel, and I used to say this incorrectly when I was younger, but I'm learning a somewhat higher amount. So the gospel is called the Injil to the Muslims. And essentially the Muslims, if I understand correctly, I haven't read the Quran as much as I have the Bible, but even though I am of a Muslim background and I am not currently a Jew because my mother was not Jewish. My mother, I forgot to mention, my mother is ancestrally Dravidian, but Middle Eastern Dravidian. So yes, so I'm mixed. So I'm on my father's side, patrilineally, I am Shem Genome, and matrilineally on my mother's side, I am Japheth Dravidian. I believe Shem through Elam, and I believe Japheth, if I understand correctly, through what is understood at the moment as Dravidian. So Southern Indian, I guess, if I understand, close to Bangalore and Hyderabad and Chennai are humans who have the same ancestors as my mother. So yes, and unfortunately my mother passed away almost approaching a year ago from her second form of cancer. She first had breast cancer and survived, and then her second form of cancer, ovarian cancer, unfortunately caused her death, her passing. But there's a death certificate at the moment, and I have like trouble not being, because I used to be a Democrat, so I try to say things like exact, compared to a Republican who would possibly say things like more like religiously. So a Democrat would say like death certificate, which is the fact in the state which I'm in, and a Republican would say religiously, like passing or passing away. If I understand correctly. I'm not saying Democrats are not religious, but in my opinion, because I am a Republican, Republicans tend to be higher religious. And I am something at the moment. We don't have a draft in the USA at the moment, but with this war, for instance, with this war of the USA and Israel versus Iran, but I would be a conscientious objector because I do believe in the Ten Commandments and I do believe thou shalt not kill. And I did not understand everything the same at every age. I didn't have the mind for it. I didn't have the mind for what time is to understand. So yeah, but I wanted to talk, there's a good amount of background, but so I can wave at the camera so I can remember where to put the timestamp, if I can find the timestamp easier. Okay, I want to talk about today, I want to talk about very openly what we are now seeing, since we have at the moment, we have cameras and video and recording technology and social media and television and internet. We have at a very high level, and humans tend to lie about, but take action to assist humans of a certain group. So I want to talk about women and genitalia of males in the Holy Bible. So we're going to look at Book of Ezekiel in the Holy Bible, which in the Bible I counted the order, I believe, to count to remove sin. And I believe Ezekiel is book 26. Oh, by the way, I am not Christian, and I may appear to be a Jew in terms of understanding of Judaism. This has to do with my ancestors, who I believe, if I understand correctly in terms of the number, I had 2 women who were Jew ancestors, and then I believe their son, who was born, is my ancestor. Also, I could be totally off. And the son, because the mother was a Jew, the son is also a Jew. But the Jews are forbidden to me at the moment. So I won't take wife of a Jew. For instance, I read Muhammad, the prophet and messenger of God in Islam. I believe he had 2 Jew wife, you could say. I'm not going to say concubinage or like wife, but I'll use the term wife. And I believe 2 were Jew women. So yes. Okay, so Book of Ezekiel, we are talking the 26th book, if I remember correctly, when I counted in this table in order. So Ezekiel is here, Ezekiel there. Okay, so also I should mention, in the Republicans, I used to believe I'm a moderate. I'm possibly like a leftist, but different than like a libertarian. So I should bring this up. But yes, I was a supporter of Donald Trump, and this caused a ton of conflict for me, and possibly was relative to some attempted homicide of myself, attempted murder by gun shooting, punchings for like assault. My mother being attacked when she was dying from cancer in like a hospital scenario, like an extreme form of negligence toward her. My father, I've seen attacked by multiple humans who would like assist the person punching him by grabbing my father's hands and body and then letting go, So I've seen these many things, and the humans in the USA are essentially the white and black humans, and growingly with assistance from the Amerindians are holding who I am as a slave, even if I may seem as a king. So this situation happens, but we win because this is a second form of slavery, for instance, by Ham genome towards Shem genome. We had the Jews, who were being called the Hebrews by their language name in ancient Egypt, and now we have black humans. I'll just use the term black humans, which black is a color, but there's like a difference. But black humans who are West African descended are working with Englishman type humans of European descent, because I'm white also, but white European is different in terms of ancestry. So, and all won't, if I understand correctly, of my ancestors have been Europeans, aside of, you could say, Ashkenazi Jew ancestors, because I had the ancestor way early, if I understand. I was possibly a human of the, in terms of my ancestor, not me, myself. But I'm Jeffrey. So my ancestor was likely in the army of Cyrus the Great, who went into Babylon to free humans like Ezra. So I have on authority, if I understand correctly. And this is where the mixing with a Jew Wive, who was, I believe, mother to an ancestor I had, began, if I understand correctly. So if I understand on authority, I have a Benjamin ancestor. If we're talking about the tribes of Israel, I have, and you know, Benjamin is a wolf, I believe I believe it's with a V. I'm not sure in the Holy Bible. I have to find what the exact words are. But which reminds me, by the way, the movie The 300, where Leonidas as a child kills the wolf. Okay, I am a Benjamin, and I'm a human, as was Benjamin and his descendants are in the Jews. But I'm a Shia Muslim at the moment. If you talk about how I'm stereotyped, okay, so we accept the Torah, which is, if I understand, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, if we are Muslims, and we accept the Injil, which is the gospel, which we have according to 4 different individuals whose names I stated, Luke, John, Mark, Matthew. If we talk about, you know, the gospel of Jesus Christ, according to those individuals who we think in the West were witnesses. But essentially, the way I understand Jesus Christ, he put a hit on the Romans, and his name, I believe, was Yeshua, approximately. And if you translate using Farsi and Hebrew, which I'll keep it, it sounds a lot like Yeh, which is one, or like an individual instance, and Shoah, which is, I believe, the Holocaust, but I don't know Hebrew. So he put the hit on the Romans, and the Jews, after earlier understanding, though, after were ready and began being pulled into and moved forward into Europe. And unfortunately, we have the Holocaust. So I will pay for my mistake in, this is what Shia Islam is. So when they beat their chests, they usually refer to Imam Ali and the individuals in certain order who were born after, and he is ancestor to, and his wife, Fatima, who, if I understand correctly, I hope I'm not getting the names incorrect, but she was a daughter of Ali's first cousin, the prophet and messenger of Islam. They say the prophet and messenger of God, but he was a prophet and messenger of Islam in receiving the Quran. His name was Muhammad, and he is a prophet and messenger of God. But in Judaism and Christianity, he isn't accepted because he is the last prophet. In Islam and Judaism and Christianity have a possibility of prophet after. So this makes a big difference. And I should just say Buddhism, just to throw, you know, religion out there. But I'm not Baha'i. I am a Shia Muslim. If you stereotype me and you talk about how I am like treated, but many humans don't know. They understand what Sunni Islam is, but you're not supposed to split the Ummah and this and that. Okay, we're going to divide the Ummah repeatedly and view as I no enter hell as a result. So yes, you know, there's the Hadith, there's the Quran, and we talk about Islam beginning in terms of human manifestation with the first prophet Adam, of, you know, Adam and Eve. We talk about Genesis, after God creates the heavens and the earth and the universe as we understand the universe. So anyways, now with this extremely long-winded background, and I did the first wave, so I have to do a second wave and find the timestamp for this. So Book of Ezekiel, a wave like more like, okay, Book of Ezekiel, so 577. Very, very important for what's going on today, which humans do not like to admit, but women are acting on. So women, in my experience, tend to protect and assist, even assist to kill, at least in the mind and in the hands, will assist humans. And there are many wars in the Middle East for approaching almost exactly 25 years, a quarter of a century. So, you can't say women at this moment because humans, many humans, atheists, do not worship God and they worship women and nature and things of the sort. They call it nature. But so we talk about Ham genome in terms of the Egyptians in the Old Testament, and now we have black individuals if you talk about pornography. And I'm using black individual because I don't want to give the exact name of the group to me to be safe, because too much gun violence toward me, not only by black individuals but also like Armenians and Englishman, home invasions, things like that, brutality physically with weapons. So also, an issue of I can't stay awake always. It's not possible for me to always be awake and keep my eyes open so I don't get attacked, which has come up. But so in Ezekiel 23:20, but I'll begin with 23:19. Yet she multiplied her acts of promiscuity, remembering the days of her youth when she acted like a prostitute in the land of Egypt and lusted after their lovers, whose sexual members were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of stallions. So we're talking about Egyptian Ham individuals having genitalia like that of donkeys and stallions, horses. So yes, this was, I believe, if I understand correctly, a Jewish woman and her sister who had been in Egypt, and I believe afterward a husband of the woman, because she also lusted after Assyrian soldiers and I guess Babylonian soldiers. But so she, I believe, I didn't read the rest of Ezekiel, but she, if I remember correctly from reading on Google like several months earlier, she continued to lust after her her old ways, you could say, and large members and like strong soldiers and things of the sort, and very different than a meek individual or a gentle individual. And her husband, if I understand correctly, I don't want to lie, but if I remember correctly, if I understand correctly, her husband murders her out of jealousy. So, okay, now we have issues of what's in pornography, and we have an issue where, for instance, the United States, you have, I won't bring up the exact like acronyms and things of the sort, but you have the entire earth saying white European descended individuals and black individuals have the best genitalia. Okay, and those individuals are being helped the most to homicide in war, non-ending war. I was born in the USA. This is not in my favor, the nation I was born in, and I have birth certificate of, and I am, my life depends on, even if I move to say Europe, or if I move to Africa, earlier and after, or during, or while, or whatever. So I have this issue with these non-ending wars, and this issue where I'm being truthful, I'm being honest, and I'll start to lie eventually again, as I have in different videos. But women across the world are supporting those individuals who they believe have the largest members, and this is parallel to the Holy Bible. So when I discuss this issue, it's like, okay, well, this is nature of woman. Yes, you must to remain on earth, in my opinion. I'm not saying to kill, I'm not advocating to kill. I'm giving you what Jesus Christ said. Those who are gentle, those who are meek, so easily imposed upon, are those who remain on earth. The workhorse, we say like workhorse, right? Or like stubborn as a mule. Individuals, yes, if they're developing thousands and thousands of years through their genome, through who they breed with, if they're developing disproportionate time in adding nuclei and cells into certain parts of the body or overall to make a certain appearance, higher attractive to women, okay, fair enough. But I do not worship women. I do not worship nature. I do not worship Muhammad. I do not worship Jesus. I do not worship Moses. I do not worship my own ancestor, Adam, nor my ancestor's wife, who is also my ancestor, Eve. I do not worship Seth. I do not worship my ancestor Saul, who eventually becomes king. I believe of the Jews, but they would say it in Israel. He was an Israelite. I do not worship him. I do not worship my own father. I do not worship my own mother. I only worship God. Okay? So I am the higher. I am the stronger on authority. And women can eventually, if they view what I'm saying, can confirm the truth of this based on what happens in physics and mathematics to their body, especially as they eat food and consume drinking liquids and continue to live. But wife, to me, is very different than the reality of, and this goes with the Quran and Islam and what happens in the Middle East, but a horse or a mule does not have many partners. And a horse and a mule has very different fur or hair than the type humans have. Okay, but when we look at apes, when we look at bonobo, when we look at chimpanzee, when we look at gorilla, okay, their hair begins to resemble our hair. So if we look at Ham genome, if we look at West Africa, their hair is disproportionately different than many groups on Earth. Not only, but I guess the Aborigines have a similar hair, or like Papua New Guinea, but if they are Ham genome, I'm not sure. But in the Quran, they talk about a fourth son of Noah. So they is different. The Quran speaks on a fourth son of Noah. But so, yes. So what I'm discussing is, so in terms of hair, like body hair, the hair of like all won't be as much different as only Ham genome West African hair is generally different. Almost everyone has, I have a lack of hair, but almost everyone has the same type of hair, you know, male and female. But Ham genome has the different hair. And when we talk about a horse, their hair is disproportionately different than human hair. It's very different. When we talk about a mule, it's disproportionately different when compared to the apes. Because the apes, we are not evolved with apes or from apes. But this is incorrect, unrefutably incorrect. The Holy Bible is correct, the Quran is correct, the religions are correct of God. But, so, we have closer hair and closer appearance and closer ability to think to apes than we do to horses and mules. And we also have closer hair, like I was saying, sorry, am I repeating? We have closer hair and we have closer things of the sort. So we have this as a physical fact because, you know, Ham genome, they bring up a lamb and their hair as being like a lamb. Well, okay, we have in the Holy Bible, Ham genome in Egypt, and now we're repeating in West African black individuals or like in the Americas. So we have an issue where they're supposed to actually, if you're, you know, they're not animals. I'm not saying Ham genome are animals, but if we're talking about truth, okay, a horse and a mule, the male won't have had too many sexual partners. Okay, this is a fact, you can look this up. Compared to the apes, for instance, a gorilla. Now, so when we talk about a gorilla, we talk about, I believe something like 200 something high, for the males, high 200s in pounds to like low 400s. So basically I'm like average weight in a gorilla, but I'm 6'2". And we talk about smaller genitalia, and we talk about a very hairy body, you know, very hairy. So you've seen, I believe, my hair. We talk about a very hairy body. Now, okay, similar to chimpanzees in terms of hair, and similar to bonobo. So in bonobo, which begins with a B, obviously, bonobo share their lovers in the apes. We are not the apes. Okay, we are humans, and we are made in the image of God. Okay, but So bonobos share their lovers. They're sort of like similar in appearance to chimpanzees in terms of size, sort of then compared to like gorillas, which are really big and large. All three, like all won't have been weak. They're extremely powerful, extremely deadly, extremely lethal in strength in their hands and in their minds. From their wrist upward, their fingers are extremely powerful. Okay, so stay away from the apes. Please physically stay away and be safe. But so in the Middle East, especially in, for example, the eastern portion of the Middle East, we have an appearance higher relative to a gorilla, if you look at us, okay? And a gorilla either will have been sort of made, I don't want to mischaracterize, but will have sort of been made asexual from loss in competition, or a gorilla will have been made the head of his own harem. And I believe the reason is because gorilla males are so jealous, the understanding isn't even jealousy. They don't believe they're God. You know, if God were to say, I am a jealous God in the Holy Bible, I'm not sure. They don't believe they're God. They're gorillas. I do not believe I am God. I'm 100% human, 0% divine. But gorillas are extremely, extremely jealous. So in human form, this takes an issue of, we talk about genitalia, which isn't as large compared to the body size. So a genitalia which may, in a different group, let's say, a genitalia which may be a 5'6" human. In my body, I am almost 6'2", approximately. So, and we talk about jealousy so extreme, it isn't even understood as jealousy. It doesn't even factually manifest. And knowledge is different of, as a topic. But the concept of jealousy. So there's an issue of even, Jesus Christ being similar, especially his appearance was likely closer to what I am than what the Jews are at the moment, because the Jews went disproportionately into Europe and mixed with European genome. So I have, if you look very closely, you can't see, I have like a sort of darker green mixed with brown eyes, which isn't very apparent to many humans, especially at night. It has to be disproportionately in the daylight. And like when I get tired, it shows a higher amount, which is what my mother used to say, but I've looked myself. So we have the issue which I'm describing, and when we talk about horses, we talk about work horse. In physics, if we look at the physics equation, power is work over time in a given equation of what power is. Okay, so the issue is we look at individuals and we talk about like bigger feet, bigger socks, bigger genitalia is the implication. Those individuals tend to love power over humans. And this does disproportionately include to kill. Okay, now, when we talk about gorillas, we say gorilla warrior in what humans are. Workhorse, gorilla warrior. Okay, now, gorilla, if I understand correctly, tend to be lazier, but they're so jealous. If you look at what Jesus Christ said, but he was saying it within a homo type of relationship, like male to male. He was male and he was saying to males. But if I'm saying in the hetero version, male to female, Jesus Christ explains essentially, I should look up the exact words in the New Testament I have here. But he says essentially, it's an adultery if even in the mind you imagine being with another woman or a married woman, okay? And Jesus Christ also explains, so even in the mind, he doesn't want males, even in the mind, to imagine being with a wife of a different male. Even in the mind, even in the hands, not necessarily touch or genitalia or whatnot. So not even a thought, not even to think of such is what he's saying to males, homo to homo, like male to male. So now, he also says divorce, which I have seen in the New Testament. They ask him and they say divorce was allowed earlier by Moses, and Jesus Christ responds, men's hearts were hard and the creator, man is made for woman, and he denies divorce. I'll go a step further. At the moment, because Jesus Christ was alive way earlier and the situation was different, there are a higher number of individuals and a higher number of legal cases of marriage and divorce and annulment. At the moment, if you talk about what a guerilla is, no divorce, no divorce, no adultery, no annulment, and to quote, I guess, Gorbachev, sort of, or like miscarriage, I hope Gorbachev, we will bury you. So I will bury you, okay? If you are my wife. Now, so we have an issue with like, how many wives do you want in your harem? Okay, well, we're lucky we are alive at the moment. We are a living organism after the Quran has been allowed by God through, delivered by an angel to Muhammad. And, we have, also Ali, risking his own death and accepting his own death and he becomes Imam, to have Muhammad be the prophet and messenger of God as a living organism and not to be executed. So Islam spreads and spreads to Indo-European language in what is Iran disproportionately. And Iranians were called Ajam, which means essentially is a racial pejorative close to what black humans were called in America, but despite what they'll tell you. But it means cannot speak the language. Okay, so cannot speak Arabic. But so why do I bring this up? So in the Quran, there becomes a limit, if I understand, of 4 wives. Okay, now, there's in Shia Islam a belief essentially in something relative to concubinage. So not like my concubine. This would be a religious scenario. Like a woman wants a relationship outside of what being a wife is, but not a friend, girlfriend, side piece, or I could use curse words, but you can imagine what I'm saying. So beginning with various different letters. So having, let's say, you inside. So an actual relationship which is legal, but in religious law or like religious acceptance, but in physically written down in a contract possibly, but isn't indefinite into no divorce, no adultery, so of course no adultery, because thou shalt not commit adultery from the 10 Commandments. But so no annulment and until you are buried by me. And if I should die earlier, you may have no other man even in your mind or in your hands. So if I, for instance, speak to you about the number of nuclei and cells in different parts of a man's body, as we can talk about in the Holy Bible. So in the genitalia, for instance, and you are in any form understanding yourself as wife to me, as a physical fact, you are not God. If we talk about the gospel according to, I forget, is it Luke or Matthew, where essentially Jesus Christ says, I believe, I hope I'm not reading this somewhere different, but God is not to be tempted. Do not tempt God. Okay, you are not God. I may tempt you. You are human. You are 100% human. I am 100% human. The Jews are 100% human. Muhammad was 100% human. Adam was 100% human, even though Adam was created. Okay, different than us who were born. Okay, now, so I may tempt you as a woman, and this is the difference. Most humans are like, well, why don't you go pick on a man? Why don't you go die? Because man to man is homo. I possibly enjoy to be male to female, which is hetero. I am a heterosexual, okay? Different than you all. So I don't mean this as a curse word, but it leads to Fagdom when you are saying male to male interaction is how things are controlled. And the West is the higher as such than the East. And I've been to the East and I've been to the West. And I am from the USA and I've been to Europe. I haven't been to South America, Africa, or Australia, though I have been to I am of North America. I've been to Europe, many more nations than I have in North America, which I've only been to the USA in North America. And I've been to Asia, both the Western extreme and the Eastern extreme, approximately in the Philippines and Vietnam. So the East allows a higher amount disproportionately of heterosexual communication between male and female in humans. The West disproportionately, in my experience, and I will refute whatever you have to say. I hope I didn't do like my head getting cut off for being a saint or whatever, or like an apostle. There's the issue of the West is very, very evil in a certain sense. Especially the Black and white European descendant individuals, they want to control the entirety of the relationships between male and female, and now they're being assisted disproportionately higher and growing gradually by the Amerindians, and they have help in the old world disproportionately in Africa, and that's a different thing relating to like slavery being a conscious decision to destroy what the Jews did in Egypt by making slave master, like we talk about Egypt being called Messer, sounds like master. They made a slave master, a slave owner, a slave holder out of the Egyptian, and they made themselves the slave. And the Jews have won. They will have won, and they will have eternally have won, despite what would have happened, because the slave is higher than the slave owner. And there was a conscious decision to make the West Africans appear to be slaves to the Europeans, who decided to outwork disproportionately with their mind and hands, as they have been in terms of engineering, math, science, in many ways, the arts, literature. There was a conspiracy to have the Black individual, and I'm aware of the difference between the color black and brown and white and yellow and red, okay, in different skin colors. But I'm not talking about skin, I'm just talking about like a group without naming their name, because they believe it's a racial pejorative at the moment, and I don't want to get canceled. So like for instance, Nigerians or those of Ghana are a certain population. I'm not talking about like, please don't bring up like Lebanese individuals. You understand what I'm speaking about. I'm talking about the Blacks in those. So they had a conspiracy, so Benin and Togo, whatever. They had a conspiracy to be like, no, the Blacks were slaves also in reality, or they have been a slave in reality in their ancestry now. Okay, this was a conspiracy to undermine the Jews and what had happened in Egypt, which the Egyptians were so dumb, they thought they would control through the language what was happening with the Jews by calling the Jews the Hebrews. No. But so the funny thing is, women will have thought, when I read Book of Ezekiel, they won't have told you necessarily, but they will have thought the genitalia, the nuclei, being a higher number, not in the thousands only, but in the millions, will have been, like the cells, will have been what is correct. Okay, all won't have been correct in this. The conflict between the Jews and the Egyptians, the Jews win because always, all won't, in my understanding of God, I'm not God, of course, but God always wants humans to not make slaves of other humans because we are made in the image of God. It's like very obvious. The fact that we appear, in a sense, to be, even though we look different than each other, we are similar in appearance compared to every animal. Okay, now, so the Jews won, and then there was a, counter conspiracy sort of scenario happening with the Europeans and growingly the Amerindians as well, but the Europeans and the Africans to draw a parallel and make the African appear to be good. Now what's happening is we have won again a Shem genome, and I've made a video about this. Why have we won? Because now the Africans, the West African descended individuals, and the Europeans, and I've said this in reverse order, but with the assistance of Amerindians growingly and gradually, and with the assistance of disproportionately Africans, we are now disproportionately Shia Muslims of Shem genome. After the Holocaust, we are now being held as slaves. They may hit us, they may attack us, they may have presidents, they may have Congress men and women, they may have, so men and women is different, but they may have Congress individuals, they may have presidents, or like a president at the least. They may have police, they may have post office workers, they may have DMV workers, they may have anything you can imagine. The French soccer team can be disproportionately black, the NBA can be disproportionately black, the NFL can be disproportionately black compared to the numbers at the least, compared to the percentages. And still, now, despite what they have, they can bomb us, they can commit adultery in the women, they can kill us, they can shoot at us, they can attack our fathers, they can attack our mothers, they can create issues of physical safety repeatedly, they can cause mental trouble. Okay, Sean Strickland of the UFC, he had mentioned some issue about like mental trouble. Nobody cares about your mental trouble in a YouTube short with Nina Drama. And I'm gonna say something. Guy who like punched an influencer until he started to bleed, named Sneeko, called Sneeko, the individual who's, you know, a Muslim, I believe, if I understand correctly, and very pro-Iranian, if I understand, and very anti, if I understand correctly, Sneeko is also anti the war against Iran. So I'm not gonna support or dissupport Sneeko. I'll tell you as an individual, may you, Sean Strickland, burn in hell, and for being anti-Christ. You know, Christ said to be gentle and to be meek to inherit the earth. Okay, in the gospel, as far as we understand. And may your father burn in hell with you. So may you not enter even purgatory, which we are increasingly understanding exists outside of what Catholics believe, let's say, or like the Eastern Orthodox, if they also believe this. So again, just to repeat, Sean Strickland, may you burn in hell. You will burn in hell, and your father will burn in hell. Sound good? With reference to this, which you should understand. So if we're gonna have this Sean Strickland, Sarah Safari, Schutzstaffel, and then you war the Middle East, and then you war Europe again sort of scenario, I'm gonna really early, and I'll continue after also, to explain this isn't a picking on someone your own size, because I'm larger than you. I'm a larger male. I'm approximately 6'2", and I am approximately 315 pounds. So if there are individuals watching, like women, for instance, who don't know, 3 of the largest weight plates, usually, not the ones which bounce, which you can throw on the ground, the older ones, the 3 large ones, which are 45 pounds each, and the barbell, 3 on each side. This is my approximate weight. Okay, so, and we talk about what a thug is. So I don't have a belief to kill, and I want to inherit the earth. So I'm trying to be as gentle and meek as possible. And for the sake of myself, and because I do love Jesus Christ, and I'm heterosexual, but I enjoy to be a peacemaker, and I enjoy to be pure. So if I can, of heart. So yes, but this won't go like like this, like, you know, the Jews say Purim and you respond and you talk. I understand words starts with the W, as does wive, as does water, as does white, as does win, as does one. And you're trying to win, you know, by using like words, and you're trying to pull the difference. I'm aware of your technique. May you burn in hell. Okay? So, you know, don't try to use your force and whatnot at individuals like who I am, and I have to go to Europe and handle like a Holocaust scenario because I'm like someone who went to Harvard Law School, and I have to, you know, make sure what happens with like a second Holocaust when this sort of scenario happens, and up to like 4, because the Jews already understand, though the entirety of Shem genome won't have understood. So, you know, you're putting too much force, and you want me to use the word pressure toward us, and you know, you really pro-black, look like dummy, look like I'm a retard and I'm the higher than you, okay? The number of nuclei in the cells, yeah, a spider bite. The number of nuclei in the cells in a given distance relates to appearance. Okay, this is coming from a bodybuilder. And if you can't imagine, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a like over 40% body fat for like many years bodybuilder. Okay, so if you're gonna do the, the W letter relates to win, I'm gonna do the F letter in fat relates to fastest and relates to force, okay? So which relates to mass and acceleration. So, okay, you start picking on individuals which have support towards what I believe, and I will personally begin to pick on you repeatedly until you understand the difference better. And I'm not teaching you a lesson, but until you understand the difference between earlier, after, during, and while, okay? So we have a war going on. If you want to be homosexual with your black friends who are now getting disproportionately into developing their nuclear capability, and you're going to develop what? The central nervous system disproportionately and use your hands. Okay. I'm not the Muhammad Ali is going to beat you up guy. I am personally telling you, may you burn in hell. Okay. So now when we talk about the Shem side, we're talking about fewer nuclei in the genitalia of males. Okay, what's the importance of this? Okay, when we talk about the issue of metaphor, which is still used to the day, hung like a horse, for instance. Okay, and which in Iran they talk about like a donkey, for example, hung like a donkey, essentially. Okay, and possibly in the Middle East. We have the gorilla issue, where the gorilla is so jealous and the appearance is closer to a gorilla. Look at the body, to like the apes. Doesn't look like a workhorse, doesn't look like a bull to be worshipped. Okay, so when we talk about the appearance, and remember, I've told you, look on Google, in a different video I said, look on Google and see if I don't appear like a fat St. Paul of Tarsus, okay? And I likely appear, though I have a hair issue, closer to Jesus Christ than many Jews, or some combination of closer to Jesus Christ in appearance than many Jews. Jesus Christ was not a ham genome individual. All won't in his ancestry have been ham genome. Jesus Christ was a blessed human. He was not a hung like a horse kind of guy, though I'm sure his like four in American terms were pretty large at the instance, and this is what helped tribe of Judah and King David also. But so we talk about the gorilla thing, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you want? Okay, you can enlarge your genitalia easily. It's like blood flow and time disproportionately pulling, holding causes cell division to happen. It's different than muscles, but similar in the process of how you build, like through repetition and sets. Okay, this is very easy. It's on the internet now. Humans understand this. It's just very time intensive. This is the difference. Okay, now, so why wouldn't you? Okay, well, we're talking about 4 possible nuclear detonations in the Middle East and war for a quarter of a century. I'm not gonna go to hell to be like some hung Fagdom individual. And this isn't a cuss word, okay? Because what is happening leads to Fagdom. Am I the only male on earth which is understanding if you're in a democracy or a republic, which is the scenario with those who are warring in the Middle East, and you have seen, as in the USA, different than a kingdom like the UK, and you have seen for a quarter of a century, in the millions are now dead as a result of war in the Middle East. And even like, I doubt even 10,000 or 12,000 humans are dead in the West as a result of direct conflict. If you're gonna say, well, as a result of, I doubt 42,000 have died because of like heart attacks, for instance, or something of the sort. Now, I'm a human, I have a mouth to speak, okay? Well, like an ape has a mouth to I speak language. Okay, I speak English. I speak Englishman language. Though I am not Englishman Japheth ancestrally. And humans go crazy for some reason. They have like this mental disaster if you name their ancestor. Okay, well, some of us are lucky because we are Shem ancestor, and luckily enough, because of the differentiation in genome disproportionately earlier and the higher and continuing after. And you can tell this while an individual such as myself is performing, also Japheth Dravidian. Okay, now, yeah, do like a bunch of research and find out it's like the same thing. So like black guys used to like, I'm Sean Strickland, black guys used to like sing, they sing really great now. So this is why like Bilal was such like a great singer in like when like Muhammad was like alive, and like I forget who like Ali is because like I'm like, I don't know, man. Okay, so Sean Strickland, okay, may you burn, may your father burn in hell. So what's the point? Okay, so we are guerrilla warriors. I do not believe to kill, but war relates to also if you're doing holy war and correctly, not incorrectly and criminal, not in a criminal way. Holy war correctly also relates to removing of weaponry. War and warrior begin with W, as does weapons, as does weapon, as does weaponry. Is a nuclear bomb a form of weaponry? Okay, I've made a different video where I'm like, look, you bombed Japan twice with 2 different bombs, which were nuclear weapons, nuclear detonations. Do 4 on Iran if you're serious, and make that 666 symbol begin to be put on Englishman's head, on their forehead, for all to see. All won't have denied this. But it's like, no, we're gonna do just like 4, and it's gonna spell like Wive for you and hell for us, like behind your back. Okay, stop. I am, as Jesus Christ explained, and I'm not a son of God. God does not have a son. The explanation is sons in the name of God. Okay? It has to be drawn out and explained in words. So while you draw out your genitalia, like way out, I'm gonna draw out the words which are holy about making peace and being a peacemaker and being pure. And this could relate to, you possibly could view a prophet outside of Islam. Okay, let's say a prophet or a bodybuilder of some sort. Just wait, could be possible. But I am going to work to end war and make peace in the Middle East and be the higher. And then you'll find out you can just force women, and I'm gonna put this at the end and slowly begin to end this. You can just force women to think in the mind and use their hands to help you develop through enlargement of the genitalia with your hands, with work, with physical work, and like pulling downward. You can make women assist you. Like, for instance, if I want to find the fastest way to make myself faster, is it to go outside and to run? Okay, but as a rule, I'll give you a faster way. The world record in the women group in the 100 meters at the moment is approximately 10.5 seconds. If you make the seconds number of the women under 10 seconds, a single digit number, okay? If women begin to, well, it's like it's black women. If women begin to run around like a 9.98 seconds, 100 meters, or like 9.90 seconds, 100 meters, and catch men of white ancestry and begin to catch, in terms of running in the 100 meters, it'll happen in the 200 meters easier, but because of momentum. But if they're able to catch those and pass like almost everyone in Asia except Su Bingtian, if I understand correctly, his time, and then like they begin to catch everyone, and only black males, essentially black males, black, brown, whatever, West African descended males are running faster than the women, all won't be allowed to exist on Earth, and because humans are already worshiping Ham genome, like West African genome in the USA, like Kanye West believes he's like to dress as and make a graven image of what Jesus Christ was. Jesus Christ looked like me and was a religious human like me. He wasn't, he was a modest human. His wife wasn't like exposing herself in public. What do you want me to say? He was like a modest human. He was a religious human. I look, I act, I behave closer to Jesus Christ than you do in any sense. So anyways, we'll just get the women if all won't stop being a Fagdom and holding, say, for instance, me from running 144,000 repetitions of the 100 meters, because I would. In my own room, I would stand and walk, non-ending, and jog in my own house to run 144,000 repetitions of the 100 meters and have access to a barbell. I understand plyometrics. I understand these sort of things. I understand standing on one foot, standing on another foot, using your legs, building your legs is different than like developing time. Developing speed is different than momentum. Acceleration is different. Okay, so why didn't you? Well, you're holding me with a gun and like Sean Strickland's behavior, his actions, I am of the capability of a judge, okay? I would bring action against you for what you did to Sneeko. Okay, now if you guys are gonna be genociders and you're gonna continue to war, do not doubt when I say I will make it my business, and actually you will have found, I will, if I need to, drag screaming a human like Areen, who I've brought up again. I would drag screaming this individual into under 10 seconds in the 100 meters to make your mind accelerate improperly and your hands begin to work incorrectly, okay? So there's a difference between a threat and a promise and a fact, and we have different words for different reasons. But yes, so stop playing on the name, for instance, of Jesus Christ, who put a hit on the Romans after Moses had put a hit already on the Africans, okay? So we have this. Now, we who are religious are not to be a workhorse or a stubborn mule with a really long member early on. We are to be religious, and we are to be awarded 4 wive, up to 4 wive, and we have an explanation of relationship in religious law to religious contract, but I'd have to explain this differently eventually, with essentially concubinage, okay? So remember, horse, mule don't have many mates. Guerilla has many mates, okay? Let this stew and drink some soup and enjoy. Man cannot live on bread alone. Thank you.